So hello everyone, welcome to this video. This is a live stream recording where we are going to create the popular arcade game Frogger. So we'll create a replica that looks something like this, and I'm just going to go ahead and play it here. So we have some very simple arcadey movement controls. I just bumped up the speed of the cars here to make it a bit more interesting, but you can choose any speed you'd like. And if you reach the end of the level, our score will increase. So very much like the regular Frogger in that way. And if we get hit by a car, our score will reset and it will say down here that we lost. And you can create some kind of win and end state, or you can also create a timer so that you don't have infinite time to make decisions about when you want to jump. Right now we could pretty much just stand in the middle here and wait for the perfect opportunity, but that's not something maybe that you want in your game, so you can go ahead and add whatever you want to this. And it's very easy to customize. We can change spawn delays, we can change around the speed of our car, we can change we can have different types of cars with different sizes. We can remove a divider here and then have this be one huge road that is a bit harder to pass. We can do lots of stuff with this, but I just wanted to get the basic gameplay framework in here. And towards the end, we'll do a full Q&A, of course, as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's go File and then New Project. And I'm just going to go ahead and create a project called Frogger Replica. And I'm going to select 2D, hit Create Project, and just wait for Unity to load everything up. And meanwhile, I'll just have a look in the chat here, see if everything's good. Looks like it. That's awesome. And I can maybe also give some background on Frogger. Frogger was originally created in 1981. And it is one of those classic old school arcade games. Way before I was born, this game was very popular, and it's since been recreated in a number of different versions. Something like Jump Frog or Jumper Frog. It's been created in Cross the Road, The Crossing, everything. It's so many versions. You probably know it under some name, and it's just one of those things that work. It's very simple and it's just a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and start by importing a sprite here, because we need a few gameplay elements. So let's actually take our camera and just take the background here and make it maybe dark gray, just to get rid of the blue color. And I have a few sprites lying around on my computer here. If you want to get the same sprites, you can go to GitHub. There will be a link in the description on the video. I will upload the project. For now, you can just use any kind of temporary sprite. You can just use basic colors, whatever. I'm just going to be using these because they look a bit better. And I'm just going to import all of them at the same time. So you can see I've created a sprite called car. And this is just a basic car. And actually, I didn't create this. I found this on the internet. A divider, which is just a white line. A frog, which is something I just threw together in Photoshop, a simple frog, and a road, which is just a white canvas basically, and then with a drop shadow. So if we begin with a road here and drag that in, you can see, make sure to center it on the transform. You can see we now just have a white square. And that's because I wanted the ability to make our level whatever color that we decide to have it in. I think I'm going to go with some kind of faded red, something like this, and then do something interesting with the background as well. I'm going to color pick that color and then darken it and desaturate it a tiny bit, something like this. I think that looks fine for now. You can always play around with the colors later. Then what we'll do is we'll drop in a frog. So we'll take a frog here and drag that in as well. And we need to add a few components to this guy. The first one is a circle collider 2D. Let's focus in on him in the scene view here so we can make sure our collider is set up nicely. I think we can decrease the radius just a tiny bit. Maybe down to something like 0.42. That looks a bit better to me. And then we can also add a rigid body 2D. And of course, right now, if we hit play, he's just going to fall to the ground. And that's of course not something we want. So let's instead go in here and choose kinematic. And that means that he will only move if he's moved through script. So we won't perform any kind of simulation on him when it comes to gravity and drag and all that stuff. We will move him only manually. And then we can go and add a new component, and we'll call this one the frog script. And we're going to make this in C#. Let's hit create and add, and let's double click that to open it up in Visual Studio. And meanwhile, I'll take a sip of water. Cool, and I can see it's opening on my secondary monitor here, so I'll just have to drag it in. Come on, there we go. So I'm going to clean up the script a bit, delete the 2 using tags at the very top, and also delete the start method. And I don't like this comment, so I'm just going to get rid of it, but we do definitely want to keep the update method. Now, what we want to do here is, of course, check for some input. Whenever we press an arrow key, we want to move in the given direction. And we have 4 arrow keys, which means that we will create 4 if statements. This is a very, very simple way to do movement because we only want him to move when the key is pressed, and we don't want to do any kind of smoothing. We just want him to snap 1 unit in the given direction. And therefore we do it in this very simple way. If you want smoother and more, should we say modern movement, you would use input.get axis and then either horizontal and vertical, and this would allow you to get a smooth movement, and it would allow you to easily move in multiple directions. Here we can only move in 4 basically, so to the right, to the left, and up and down. So we'll just go ahead and create a series of if statements here, and the first one will say if, and then we'll say input.get key down, and the key that we want to check for is key code dot, and then we can do right arrow, and this means of course the right arrow button on your keys on your keypad. So if you on your keyboard, Jesus Christ. So if you press the right arrow key, this will return true, and it will only do that right when you press it, not if you hold it down. And then we can go ahead and create some new lines here, and we'll need, of course, a reference to our rigid body, because we want to move our frog using the rigid body so that we can still have good collisions and check if we hit cars or if we reach the goal or whatever. So let's go ahead and create a public rigid body 2D, and we'll call this one RB. Then down here we'll say that if we press the right arrow button, we go RB.movePosition. And now a mistake a lot of beginners make here is say, well, we want to move our rigid body 1 unit to the right. So we go in here and write vector2.right. And this means basically that we will move 0 on the, or 1 on the X and 0 on the Y, which means 1 unit to the right. But move position actually doesn't move our rigid body by a vector, it moves it to the specified position. So here, every time we press the right arrow button, we would move to the position 1, 0. And that's not what we want. We want to move from our given location in that direction. So we actually need to add our current position onto this movement vector. So we need to say that we want to move from rb.position, our current position, plus, and then 1 to the right. And then we can take this if statement here and we can duplicate it, and we can write else if here if you want to be very correct about it. And then we can change right arrow to left arrow. Oops, not left alt, left arrow. And vector2.right to vector2.left. And we can again copy this one more time, else if. And this is going to be the up arrow, and it's going to be vector2.up. And finally, else if. And this is going to be the down arrow and vector2.down. Cool. So now we will move in any given direction. And if we save this and head back into Unity, we should actually see it working right away. Of course, we need to reference our rigid body, and this is a very important step. Then we can hit play, and we should now be able to use our arrow keys to move around our frog. So very cool. Of course, one thing that we can currently do is move off the screen, and we can also exceed our top position and the bottom one. So what I do is definitely recommend you, you clamp the movement of our frog, but I don't think that's something we need to do right now. That's something that you can have a look at doing if you want to actually give this to your friends. Cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and save our scene, and I'm going to call this something like main or level 1, whatever you want to call it. And the next, of course, step here is to add some actual cars. So let's take the frog here and move him down on the Y by, say, -4 to put him right here at the beginning of our road. And then we can go ahead and bring in the first car. And for this car, actually, let me just check the chat here because I'm rambling and I know it. Are we using add force? No, we're using rigid body.move position. Let's see. How do you fix if your sprites colliders are tilted? Shifted. Well, if your sprites collider is shifted, you can simply go and select the frog here. Let's choose this as an example. So if our collider started off like this, what you would do is you would go in here and edit the offset on the X and Y to position it correctly. And you can also change the radius to choose the size. You can even go in here and say edit collider, and this, whoops, actually this circle collider is probably a bad example of this, but you can go in here and stretch it around, and sometimes it will allow you to move it, but I don't think the circle collider will. But that will allow you to customize the collider in ways that aren't too easy using the handle. So that's a way you can easily change the position of your collider compared to the sprite. Cool. So let's continue. So let's create our car here and let's add a new component, and this is going to be a box collider 2D. And let's zoom in on this and make sure that he is totally snapped to our car. And again, I'm pressing edit collider here, and now we can actually kind of move this in to fit our car perfectly. I'm just going to move, whoops, I'm just going to take the car collider here and actually make it a bit smaller than it needs to, just because it's so annoying when you die and you feel like there was still air between you and whatever you hit. Just to make sure that doesn't happen, we're going to give it a bit of leeway room there, and that looks good. Then we can add a rigid body to this one as well, because it is going to be moving and we are going to be registering collision. So let's go and again change the dynamic type to kinematic. So now, or the body type to kinematic, and let's add another component, and this is going to be our car script. Let's add that. Let's double click it to open it up in Visual Studio. And in here, of course, we need to move the car. So let's begin by, again, removing our two using tags up there. Let's remove our, for now, we'll remove the start method to make things easier. Also remove the comment here, and we'll change this one to fixed update. Because we are going to be moving around the car, we might as well do it in fixed update instead of update. Fixed update is meant for physics, update is meant for everything else. Good. So now we can go in here and we can move our car. And the easiest way to do this would probably, again, be getting a reference to a rigid body and using move position. So let's go up here and create a public rigid body 2D. Let's call it RB, and then down here we can go rb.movePosition. And remember, before we took our current position, which is rb.position, and then added vector2.right onto that, and then we multiply that with time.fixed_delta_time to make sure that it will move at the same pace no matter what system you're running on. So again, fixed update is an update, or is a function that is run a certain amount of times each second, and that means that it's on a fixed timer. And say it runs 50 times a second, well, then we want to multiply this with 1/50th of a second. And if it runs 100 times a second, we want to multiply this with 1/100th of a second, because then we will even out the position or the movement so that we won't move faster the faster fixed update runs. And that's just a good practice. It won't actually be noticeable for one player, but if he then compares to another time he plays the game or to another system, it will be noticeable. So yeah, it's a good thing to do. So now we should actually move our car to the right here. So if we take our car and move him over and hit play, we should see the car slowly, whoops, of course we need to also reference the rigid body. It's easy to forget. And hit play here, we will see that he indeed moves to the right. However, we also want him to move to the left. And we want to have this movement depend on whether or not we start over here or over here. Of course, we could go in and create multiple versions of the car, one that moves to the right and one that moves to the left. But that is really impractical. What we want to do instead is simply have the car move forward, so that if we go ahead and rotate our car, so I'm just going to rotate it here, he's not going to still move to the right, but instead going to move forward in the given direction. And this way we can simply spawn him facing a certain way, and then he will move in that direction. But that's not the way we're currently doing it, because we are just adding 1, 0 onto our current position. And that's not relative to our rotation at all. Instead, what we do is use transform.forward. And this is a vector that is indeed relative to our current rotation. In fact, we probably want to use transform.right because forward is in the z-axis and then is in the depth, and we are working with 2D, so our forward would in our case be right, I believe. Yes. Okay. Sometimes you have to think about those axes and how they relate to the 2D and things. It's a weird thing. Just know that we'll be using transform.right. The only problem is we could actually just go in here and write transform.right instead of vector2.right. The problem is transform.right is a vector 3, meaning that it both has the x, y, and z, and rb.position and move position wants a vector 2. That means only x and y. And so we need to convert this into a vector 2 where we just ignore the z position. So to do that, we'll go up here and we'll create a new vector 2, and we'll call this one something like forward, and we'll set it equal to a new vector 2 where the x coordinate is going to be transform.right.x and the y coordinate is going to be transform.right.y. And now we've basically converted this, or taking the first two coordinates and stored them in a vector 2 called forward that we can then use here. So if that is a bit weird, I totally get it. It is a bit of trickery, but it should now work and mean that when we go in here and hit play, our car will now move in the direction it's facing. And we can actually go ahead and rotate it on the Z here and see that it will just keep moving even though we update its rotation in real time. This actually allows you to create more advanced vehicle behavior than you would normally be able to. And it's just something that's pretty fun to play around with. You see, I'm just changing the Z rotation here and we're actually driving around. And this is actually the basis of creating a car controller in a 2D view, is having it always drive forward and then simply changing the rotation depending on your input. So that's something that you can experiment around with if you want to. Cool. So the final thing that we need to look at for our car is speed. We of course want to have control over how fast our car should move. So first off, let's create a public float called speed. And we'll set this equal to, let's just set it to 1 by default. And then we'll go in here and multiply forward with time.fixed.time and then with speed as well. So we'll just have one long multiplication chain here. So let's hit save, and we should now see that we can control the speed of our car by simply bumping up the speed variable. We can also make it go in the opposite direction if we give it a negative speed. The cool thing about this is that we can now control speed through code to be some kind of random number. So we'll go in here and make a float speed, and we can just default that to 1, that's fine. Then in our start method, we will set speed equal to a random number. So whenever we want to get a random number between a minimum and a maximum in Unity, we use random.range. And then we specify first the minimum number. In our case, this could be something like 8, and a maximum number which could be something like 12, and then we close it off. And of course we could just hard code these in, but I want to actually create some temporary variables. Also make sure to specify these as float so we can get floating point random numbers, and not only 8, 9, 10, 11, and that's it. So let's go up here and create a public float minimum speed, and we'll set that equal to 8, and a public float max speed, and we'll set that to 12. And then we'll put min speed here and max speed there. Also makes the code a bit more readable. So now in Unity, we should have two variables, one for the minimum speed and one for the maximum speed. And we should now see that this car has a random one of those two. And you can see in general, that's actually pretty fast. If we go ahead and set our minimum speed to 2 and our maximum speed to 6, we can see that we get a random number in between those two, which is generally a lot slower. And of course, the larger gap you make between these two numbers, the more it's going to vary from one car to another. Awesome. So that's pretty much all we needed to do for our car. Let's remove the rotation on this car, and let's take him and drag him into the project panel to create a prefab out of him. This way we can easily spawn him in the different lanes as soon as we decide to create a spawn script. Cool. So let me just check the chat here. Let's see. Yeah, things are looking good. Let's see. I know you don't need to do this in fixed update. I just like to have as much movement code as possible inside of fixed update. You can do it in update, but I recommend whenever you do something with movement that doesn't have anything to do with registering input, do it in fixed update. It's just good practice. Cool. Yeah, so let's go ahead and create a spawner. So let's go and create an empty game object for this. Let's reset the transform, and let's call this one something like spawner, or maybe car spawner. And let's move it to the top. Let's also create a new component, and we'll call this one car spawner. And let's hit create an add. Let's double click that to open it up in Visual Studio. So there are different components to creating a spawner, and I actually have a video series, or a small one, on creating a wave spawner that will work in pretty much, or at least most games. It allows you to create different waves with different types of enemies and different timers, and time between each enemy spawned in a wave and time between waves, all that fancy stuff. It even has states, but that's too advanced for us here. What we want is actually something really, really simple. We want, on a fixed timer, to choose a random lane and spawn a car. And we only have one car. We have maybe, say, 4 lanes. And again, we have a fixed amount of time between each spawn. So to do that, we'll go in here and again remove these two using tags. Don't like looking at them. And let's also remove our 2 methods. Let's create a public float. And this is going to be our time between spawns. We can also call it spawn rate. However, our spawn rate and the time between each spawn are the inverse of each other. So 1 divided by spawn rate would be equal to the time between spawns, and the other way around. We also call it something like spawn delay, which I like to do, so let's call it that. And our spawn delay will default to something like 0.3. And remember to put an F here because we're dealing with floats. It's just good practice. Let's then go inside of our update method here. Let's create an update method. And basically what we want to do, there are 2 main approaches. Actually, there are 3 ways to do this. As with game development, there are always multiple ways to do things. The first one is using time.time. So what you would do is you would create a private variable here, and that means that we don't have to write anything, and this would be a float, and it would store the next time to spawn. And this would default at 0, meaning right when we start the game, our next time to spawn is going to be, or it's going to be the next time to spawn, and then we're going to spawn a car. Then basically what we do is we check if next time to spawn is greater than or equal to time.time. And time.time is simply the amount of seconds elapsed since we started the game. So right when we start the game, that's going to be 0. It's going to be equal to next time to spawn. We're going to spawn, so we could go here and call some kind of spawn car function. And then we could set next time to spawn equal to our current time plus our spawn delay. So say 5 seconds elapse, we spawn a car. We are going to set our next time to spawn equal to 5 seconds plus our spawn delay, which is 0.3. So it's going to wait until time.time is equal to 5.3, in which case next time to spawn is going to equal time.time. And then we're going to spawn another car, and it's going to keep going. So we simply keep track of the next time in seconds to spawn a car. When it reaches that, we add a small time delay onto it, and it keeps going like that. That's a nice way to create a loop in the update method that's pretty easy to understand and easy to make, and that pretty much works, and that works every time. Another way to do it is in the same way using the update method, but instead using a countdown timer. So we could go in here and create a float countdown timer, and we could set this equal to say 3 seconds. Let's just say that, and I'm just going to give you an example here above the other code. So what we would do here is we would say if countdown timer has gone below or is equal to 0, then it's time to spawn a car. And then we can go ahead and set countdown timer equal to our spawn delay. So in this case, we could set it equal to 3 seconds. So every 3 seconds we would spawn a car. And if it has not yet reached 0, it's not time to spawn a car, well then we can go ahead and decrease the countdown timer. So countdown timer minus equals time.delta time. And this means that every second our countdown timer will decrease by 1, and it will do this gradually over time by subtracting a small number every frame. So that's another way of creating a loop within the update method. The last way is using coroutines, what you see in Unity as that enumerator thing. That's a bit more difficult because it's fairly syntax heavy, so it can be a bit harder to understand, but it's also something that offers a great amount of control. So that's something that you can look into if you want, but for now we're just going to be going by this method here, which works just fine. So now we have a fixed timer that calls spawn car. So now we just need to create a spawn car method. And what we can do here is simply instantiate a car prefab. And we need a reference to that. So we go up to the top here and create a public game object called something like car or car prefab. I'm just going to call it car, and we instantiate that car. And currently it's just going to instantiate at the center of our map. If we don't specify any position or rotation, it's just going to spawn right in the middle. So that's what we're going to do here. We're just going to spawn it without caring where. And we'll take our car prefab and drag it into the slot. And now we should see that when we hit play, it spawns. What happened? Did we forget a line of code here? If next time to spawn is greater than or equal to time.time, so spawn time.time plus spawn delay. Did I forget something, guys? I don't see an issue with this, but maybe I'm just being blind. Is greater than, yeah, this looks good to me. I don't know what is causing this. Let's try and hit play again. Oh, for some reason it's just not spawning anymore. Only spawns 2. Did I mess up my if statement? Is greater than or equal to time.time. Oh yeah, less than or equal to. Always with the comparison signs, Jesus. You guys probably just sat there screaming at your screens. I know the feeling. Yeah, I was too blind. I did not see. Now you can see them spawning regularly. Cool. Okay, much better. You got me scared for a second, but we figured it out together. Cool. So one thing that I just remembered is we probably want to put a road here on a different sorting layer. So let's go and add a new sorting layer called... This one we'll call background, and we'll put it at the top so it's drawn first. So, and we'll select that for a road, just to make sure that our car will always render on top of our road. And we'll also take our frog here and put his ordering layer to -1 so that our car will always drive over our frog. Cool, so now we should see those spawning in and everything is working. That's awesome. You can see them driving over the frog. Now, of course, we need to vary where it spawns. And the way we do that is using spawn points. So we go in here and we basically create an array of spawn points, and we select a random one each time we want to spawn a car. And the way we create these spawn points in Unity is simply using empty game objects. So let's go in here and let's create an empty game object. We'll reset the transform. We'll call this one spawn point, and we'll set a label up here. Let's just do a red label. That looks fine. We can then set the position here on the Y to something like -1 and move him over here somewhere to, let's say, -6 on the X. I think that's going to work fine. We can then duplicate it and we can move it up to 2 on the Y. We can then take these 2 spawn points, move them over to 6, +6, so just simply remove the negative on the X there. And we can take these 2 and simply move them down somewhere around there. So the first one is going to be 1 on the Y, and the second one is going to be -2 on the Y. Cool. And we need to flip these 2 spawn points so they point in the opposite direction. And we do that by simply going into our Z, I believe, and writing 180. Awesome. So now it points, they both point in the opposite direction. So you can see how they're split into different lanes. We'll also go in here and just add a few dividers. And these just make it easier for the player to see the lanes. We'll have one at the 0 mark here. We'll duplicate that, move one down to the -2 on the Y, and duplicate that once again and move it up to now +2 on the Y. And I can see that I've messed something up with the spawn points here. So we need the spawn point 1 here to go up to 3 on the Y, and we need spawn point 3 here to go down to -3 on the Y. There we go. So now we can see how each spawn point is in its own lane and is pointing towards the center of our screen. Cool. So what we can now do is store these spawn points in an array. An array is of course just a list of variables, in our case a list of game objects. So we need to go in here and create a public, and we could make this a game object array, but since we're only going to be using their positional data, meaning their position and their rotation, we can store transforms instead. And we'll create an array of these and we'll call them spawn points. Then in Unity, we can actually go in here and add them right away. And one way you could go about this is increase the size of the array to 4 and add 1 spawn point at a time. But, and this is also something that I show in my top 10 Unity tips and tricks for Unity series thing video, there are only 2 of those so far, is that you can go up here and lock the inspector. You can shift click to select all of the spawn points, and you can drag those into the array, and now voila, they're all there. So it's just a tiny bit easier, especially if you have a lot of objects, then it's a lifesaver. Cool. So now we have all of our spawn points in this array. What we can then do is go down here and select one at random. To do that, we go in and we first get a random number between 0 and 3. Remember, every time we want to get a element in an array, in our case we want to get a random spawn point, we simply access it using an index. 0 means the first element, so the first spawn point, 1 for the second, 2 for the third, and 3 for the fourth. So we want to get a random number between 0 and 3 in order to get a random spawn point. And to do that, we create an integer called the random index, and we'll set it equal to random.range between 0 as the minimum and then the length of our array. We could just hard code 4 here because we have 4 elements, so we can get 0, 1, 2, and 3. Or we could input, and this is a bit better to do, spawn points dot length, and now we simply get the length of our array and put it in here. So we get a random index into our array, and we get a random point from that array. From that array. So we'll go here and say we want to store a transform spawn point, and that's going to be equal to spawn points at the random index. There we go. So we get a random number between 0 and 3, and we insert that into a spawn points to get the actual point out of our array. We call that spawn point, and then down here we can instantiate a car at spawn point dot position and at spawn point dot rotation. Cool. So now we should see that this just works. So if we go here and hit play, and yeah, all of the cars are now spawning appropriately. Cool, and they're moving in different directions, and each lane has a given direction. That's awesome. So that's already like 90% of our game here. Now it's just about creating an end and a win state, which is fairly easy compared to everything else we've done. So yeah, just going to save the scene here and see if everything is working in the chat. Oh, you guys are writing essays in here today. That's fun. But it looks like things are working just fine. People are saying something about the min speed. That looks fine. Cool. All right. Awesome. And yeah. So let's go ahead and create a let's see. Oh yeah, one guy is mentioning that you could use invoke repeating for the car spawner script. That's totally true. Invoke repeating is not the best thing to use, but you could actually just go in here and write from the start method here, void start. Instead of all of this junk, you could go in here and write invoke repeating, and then spawn car, then a time until we start doing this, and we'll just write 0, and then a repeat rate, and we could put this at let's say 3 times a second. That would definitely work as well. So good call. I totally forgot about invoke repeating. Yeah. So let's go ahead and create an end state. So let's say we get hit by one of these cars. Well, what do we want to happen? We probably want to reset some kind of score, and we want to restart the level. Let's do that. So let's select the car. Let's go in here and add a new component. And actually, instead of having every car try and register if it's hit the player, let's simply have the player register if it's hit a car. It's better whenever you have this many entities inside the scene to check for collision on only the player and not on every single car. Also, you will notice right now that if we leave our game playing here, our hierarchy will clutter with cars. So it's a good idea to go in here and have the cars just be destroyed after a certain amount of seconds. It's very easy to do. You can simply look up destroy game object after X amount of seconds. It's super easy, but I definitely recommend you add that. So now we can find our frog, open the frog script, and in here we'll simply create another method. This is going to be a void on trigger enter 2D, and you need to call it the exact same thing. That's really important. And we'll also get some information about what we just hit, and the information is going to be of type collider 2D, and we'll call it collider. And we want to go in here and say if collider.tag is equal to car. So if what we got hit by has a tag that equals car, meaning we got hit by a car, well then we want to restart the game. So we can go in here and debug.log, we lost. And we can also restart the game using Unity Engine .scene management. And then down here we can now write scene manager .load scene, and the scene we want to load is scene manager .get active scene .name. Cool. And all we need to do then is go and select our car prefab and add that tag. So let's hit add tag. Let's create a new tag called car. Let's go to our car and set the tag to car. So now when we hit play and get hit by a car, nothing happens. And the reason why is fairly simple. The reason why is that we need to go to our frog and mark his collider as a trigger. Now we should see it working. And indeed it does. So it says we lost, and then it immediately restarts the level. Awesome. And the creating a win state is pretty much the same thing. We simply create a collider up here that when we reach it, we want to win the game. So let's take our main camera and just move it up a tiny bit so that we have a bit more to see up here. Let's go ahead and create an empty object. Let's reset the transform, and let's call this one goal. Let's add a box collider 2D, and we should be able to see it here. We can now take our object here and scale it up, something like that, and then we can move it up until it kind of sits right at the end of our road here, right there. Cool. And then on this goal, we'll go ahead and create another custom component. And this is fine that we check for collision with the player on this object and not on the player itself, because this is just a single object, just like the player is only a single object, not 1,000 different cars. And we'll just call this one goal. And in here, we'll do something very, very similar to what we just did. We'll remove this collections up there. Instead, we'll have a void on trigger enter 2D. And we don't even need to check if it's the player that entered this trigger, because that's the only thing he'll that will realistically enter. But you can, of course, do a check if you want to. And if he enters, we can go ahead and write debug.log. You won. Of course, we only won this part of the level. You have to do this multiple times to get a good score, but we'll just write this here. And then we want to go ahead and use Unity Engine.scene management in order to restart our level here. Scene manager.load scene, and then scene manager.get active scene, and then .name. There we go. Cool, so let's save that. And now our goal should actually be in place. All we need to do is mark that as a trigger as well. So now when we hit play and we jump towards, oops, I can see we also have to reconfigure our dividers here. But jump towards our goal, you can see it says you won and the level restarts. That's awesome. And we'll just select our dividers and set that order and layer to something like -10. And this way we'll jump above them and not under them. Cool. So that is kind of the base game. The last thing is just adding a score. I don't know if you guys want me to go ahead and add one, or if we should just continue on to the Q&A. Let me see. Okay, so we've actually been going for under an hour. So let's just go ahead and add a quick score, and then we'll move on to the Q&A. So in order to create a score object, we'll go UI text and create the actual text of our score first. Make sure you're in 2D mode and hit F to focus on it. I'll also switch to the 2D tools. I'll kind of put this in the center of the screen. I'll then move it up towards the top. We can size it up here. I'm holding down Alt to scale on all axes at the same time, so scale from the center. Let's bump up the font size to something like 30. Change the alignment to align on the center and on the top. I'll also change the color to white and change the text here to score and then some number. Actually, I think it's cleaner if we just do the number and then make this even larger in font size. Something like that looks a lot better. You can also make it italic or bold or both, whatever you want to do with this. I'm just going to make it normal. And I definitely do recommend that you change the font. I cannot stand the Arial font. I don't know why. It has to be default every time. Please change it to something else, but I'm just going to stick with it because I don't want to go ahead and download another font. One thing that would work great for this is the very simple Roboto font. I use it in a lot of these small game projects because it's this clean and it's free to use. So I recommend that, Roboto, if you want to get something easily that's better. But yeah, so we have our text here and it starts at 0. We can call this one score, and we can go ahead and add a script to this as well. So we'll add the score script. We'll double click this to open it up in Visual Studio. And in here, we'll write a public static integer containing our score, and we'll default that to 0. And remember, static means that we can access this variable. Of course, current score. Yeah, it's not allowed to be called the same as the class, so we have to kind of improvise on that. You can also we'll call this one current score. So static means that we can access this variable not using an instance, a reference to an instance, but just using the class itself, the class type. So this really easily allows us to change the score. And it means that if we had multiple instances of our score script, they would all share the same current score. Cool. So now inside of our, actually we can just in the start method, we can change this. We can set our current UI text object equal to the score here. Let me see. Sorry if I'm kind of doing this in an unstructured fashion. So basically, we want to change the text, our UI piece text here equal to our current score, whatever that's equal to at the moment. And we do that by first including the UI namespace so we can use our UI tools. We then create a public text in order to reference that text object, and we'll call it score text. And then at the start of our game, we'll set score text dot text equal to, and then our current score. And we need to write toString here to convert it from a number into a string that our score text can use. So we can actually get away with doing this only at the start, because every time our score changes, we also restart the level. That means when we die, we want our score to reset, our level restarts, or when we win and our score goes up, our level also restarts. And this is also the primary reason why I'm using a static integer here, is that it will persist even though you reload a scene. And that's why it's good. It won't persist if you close down your game, but if you just reload the scene and the score script is still there, this number will be saved. So now we can go into our frog script, and in here, whenever we lose, we can set score.current score, and this is why it's so awesome to use a static variable. We don't need to use anything like find object of type score in order to find that particular score and then go current score. Instead, we can simply write the type score.current score, and we can set that equal to 0. And the same thing in our goal here, we can write score.current score plus equals 100. So every time we complete it, we'll get 100 more points. Cool. So this means that now we should be able to reference our text object, hit play, and if we complete our level, we get 100 more points. And if we do it again, oh, that was close, we get 200 points. And we can keep doing this to rank up more points, and as soon as we die, it goes back to 0. Awesome. Yes. I'm so excited that worked. I got a little confused at the end. I think I've been talking too much. Good thing that we're doing a Q&A now, because I won't have to talk at all. Can you guys do some talking? We should feature some other game developers on here, so I don't have to do all the talking myself. Awesome. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the game. Things that you should do, no matter what, is probably have some way of removing the cars, so we don't clutter our hierarchy and really get performance issues after longer times if the player lets it stay idle for some reason, and restrict the player movement. Those two are probably the bugs that we currently have, but other than that, it's just about playing around with it, adding more cars, creating different levels, playing around with the score, playing around with movement, all that stuff. I definitely recommend that you just go nuts with it. So yeah, it works. Cool. So that's pretty much all I had for the tutorial part of this video. I think we'll go ahead and transition over to the Q&A part now. So ask away with your questions, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and set my layout differently here transitioning into chat mode. And again, I will just say this because people always ask about this. I will upload this entire live stream if you're just tuning in or if you missed something, if something was too fast. I will upload the entire live stream to YouTube tomorrow. And I will also upload the entire project along with sprites and scripts to GitHub tomorrow as well. So don't worry, you'll have access to it. Good, so let's go ahead and have a look at the chat here. I'm just bringing everything up here, so let's see what's going on. So add audio to the game. I'm not going to be adding audio to the game right now because I think, yeah, people have been looking forward to the chat segment, and so have I. But I will definitely have some video content on easily adding audio to your game, because it's something that I chose not to include in the How to Make a Video Game course, and it's something that frankly I've covered a little bit, but it's not something that I've gone a lot into. So I thought creating some kind of standalone video on how you can easily add audio elements to your game would be pretty good, especially because Unity not so long ago really improved their audio features, and most of what I've covered is using the old audio system. I mean, now they have a full-on mixer with cool VST effects, so you can do stuff like reverb, delay, EQ, and a bunch of other high pass, low pass filters, compression, and then all the fancy stuff. So that's really, really nice. So we can talk about audio in a standalone tutorial soon for sure. So I'll make sure to think of something there. Let's see. If you continue this, you will become like Video Copilot for AE or TSG for Sim and 4D. Thanks, man. That I really appreciate it. Not really a comment. I'm just reading it out, hearing the praise, enjoying it. I'm actually a huge fan of Video Copilot. Yeah, I used to be a huge After Effects nerd. I did a lot of smaller projects. Love to do special effects, both 3D stuff, but also just like muscle flash stuff and particles, and oh, it's so much fun, like creating clones of yourself, all that junk. I've done pretty much all of it. I mean, Andrew Kramers is a really funny guy. Can you make an in-game level editor tutorial series? Haven't really thought about that. It's really programming intensive, but it could also be pretty damn fun. It's actually not the hardest thing to do. It only becomes hard when you start to talk about serializing your in-game editor things. Then it becomes a bit more, I mean, it's totally doable. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but it's definitely not for a beginner audience. It's intermediate to advanced only, but I'll consider it. It sounds like a good idea. Let's see. Are you working on a game beside YouTube? If you don't, why? And if you are, on what? I'm not currently working on a game externally from YouTube. I'm only working on the stuff that I show on YouTube. The primary reason for this is I simply don't have time. I would love to work on some games. I love creating games, and I always look so much forward to Ludum Dare, which is coming up pretty soon, in basically like 2 or 3 weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to make a game for that. And actually, Sophie Bab will participate as well to try and create her first game in a game competition. So that's going to be really fun. But yeah, the primary reason is just time constraint. I'm putting so much effort into the YouTube videos, and then also on creating these dev assets, asset packs. And we actually have something really cool coming up. I should show you this. I'm going to show you this. Look at what's coming to dev assets in just a moment, guys. I'm going to show you something really cool now. Everyone get hyped. This is going to be awesome. It's going to be released Sunday 9th. So that means in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And it's going to be freaking awesome. I'm just going to go ahead and find it here. So I have all of my files here. Let's see. It looks like this. This is coming to dev assets. get excited. Sci-fi weapons. It's going to be awesome. 32 different ones. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. But don't tell anyone yet. It's only a little treat if you made it this far into the video. Let me find the chat here again. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. So yeah, I really just haven't had time to look at to look at creating a game externally yet. Will you make a tutorial similar to storing data in player prefs, but this time in a secure way? I mean, there are some very easy things you can do to make player prefs secure. But definitely the best way of storing data easily in Unity is just picking up an asset storage solution, or a solution from the asset store that works for you. It's basically just about adding a layer of encryption. And of course you can do it manually, but I don't think I will dig too much into that right now. So that's kind of just a tease for now, but at some point I can tackle it. There are some really good tutorials on storing XML and JSON data and how you can encrypt data on YouTube right now. So I don't think there's much need for me to do one. More advanced games in the future? Maybe. Now that the mysterious soon-to-be-released pack is coming to dev assets, I will probably do something with that. That means probably an updated shooting video and also something on weapon switching, which I've been teasing for so long, I know, but it's coming. That's a bit more advanced. In the totally advanced, I don't have anything planned right now, but then again, I only plan so far ahead, but I definitely want to create some more advanced stuff. I want to do a video on RTS camera movement. I think that could be really interesting because a lot of people are asking for RTS content, and while I don't think I want to go ahead and create a full video series on creating an RTS game because those are extremely complex, I can tackle parts of them. One part being a camera and how you move that around. Let's see here, trying to find something good. Make it the Sims-like game? No, that's way too complex and it relies way too much on the content and all of the props and characters and things. It wouldn't really work for a tutorial, I'm sorry. Are there some big difference between input.getKey and input.getButton except for customization controls? Not really, no. I mean, getButton is just a better thing because you can easily create alternate keys. You can create smoother input, like with horizontal and vertical. It's easier to set up for controllers and stuff like that. GetKey is pretty much just only for the keyboard. I just prefer using GetKey sometimes because you know it's going to work no matter your preferences under the input manager, and that's why I've used it in a lot of tutorials. But really, if you're creating a serious game, use GetButton every time. No excuse. Let's see. Oh, I'm loving the reactions to the cipher weapons. That's good. Let's see. Yeah, they're pretty ideal for the multiplayer FPS series. Definitely, they would fit in nicely there, especially because we already have that weird sci-fi theme going with the robot. Oh, look who just passed by! Say hi. This is Charlie, guys. So somehow they always manage to intrude on the videos. It's very nice. Tutorial explaining nav mesh soon. Yes! I'm so excited about the navigation mesh coming to Unity now. I mean, it's actually released now, but I believe that this version of Unity only features the low-level API when it comes to updating meshes in real time and stuff like that. It still has a lot of improvements, but I don't think the actual high-level components are in there just yet. I might be wrong, correct me if I am, but as soon as the components are there, then I want to make a video, because then it's easily accessible for everyone, and I don't want to go ahead and create a video on something that's updated just after and made 1,000 times easier. But I'm so excited for the navigation mesh. It's something that I'm just dying to make. Let's see. Do you know how to put your multiplayer game on your own server? That's not something that I would squeeze into a video. No, I'm sorry. I would recommend just picking up either Unet or Photon and have them host it. Yeah. It's not something that I'm going to go into. First of all, it's not something that I'm very good at. It's something that I can do, but it's, I mean, only at the point where I'm kind of learning as I do it all the time, not to the point where I would feel comfortable teaching it. So it's not something that you're going to see. I'm sorry. Could you do a simple multiplayer game tutorial such as paper, scissors, rock just for beginners? That could actually be pretty interesting. I think the Unet has come a long way since we explored it in the multiplayer FPS series all that time ago. So might want to do something for beginners, but at the same time, I'm just so happy not to do multiplayer right now, because multiplayer just means issues that, I mean, I've never had to prepare that much for a video than I had to prepare for the multiplayer FPS course, because something about creating multiplayer games just messes everything up. It's just a whole nother abstraction layer on top of like syntax and logic, normal coding logic. You have this entire thing that's called networking, and it messes with my brain. I'm so happy not to be messing with it right now, and I think I'm a lot more productive not having to do that. I mean, sometimes I spend days trying to figure out how to do something, especially because Unet was so buggy at the time. Hopefully much of the stuff that I was messing with has gotten fixed, because some of that stuff was just not okay. But yeah. Please, can I stay away from multiplayer, guys? I will probably do something at some point, but not right now. Not right now. Right now I have some other things that I really, really want to make. Let's see. Will I show C++ tutorials sometime in the future? In the future, maybe. C++ is an awesome language. Huge, complex, and sometimes hard to understand, and at least hard to kind of feel comfortable in. But I might do something at some point. Not right now, though. Right now, my focus is entirely Unity, and then I've seen a lot of requests on Blender. So I wanted also to ask you guys: do you guys want to see Blender tutorials? Because I'm not a good 3D artist, but at the same time, but I can do some basic stuff, and I know my way around Blender, and I've used it for many years. So I mean, I know how to use it. I'm just not an artist. So if you guys really want to see some Blender videos, I could do like a 3-part Blender series, which could be pretty fun. But also remember that I have a limited amount of time. So it would mean that one of the videos, I mean, I upload 2 videos a week. One of the videos would probably then be Blender for 3 weeks. So just let me know if that's something you want. The majority here is saying, yes, I see. That's good to know, because Blender is fun. I mean, it's always fun to do. What's next in your tutorial series? I don't know what series you're referring to. If you're asking for what series I want to do next, well, it could be Blender. That would be nice. Yeah, Blender basics would be the goal. Something like creating a barrel or creating a crate, from all the way from understanding the interface, modeling, and then through texturing, and then over to importing into Unity. That could be a pretty nice little thing that I think a lot of people have been asking about. Until then, please check out some of the tutorials by CG Cookie. They're great. And also, I forget, Andrew Price is his name. He's awesome. Does really good Blender tutorials. Also recently did a beginner series, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, check that out. But okay, an overwhelming amount of people saying from a barrel to a character. No. That's where my artistic skills probably start lagging a little bit. But yeah, we can start with something basic that could be really fun. I'll make sure to keep that in mind, guys. Right now, I'm just gonna tell you about my current visual schedule, and I have it over here to the right, so that's why I'm looking over there. Tomorrow, we're going to have the live stream air. This Sunday, sci-fi weapons. Get hype! And Wednesday, the 12th, after that, is going to be about exporting your game in Unity, because we closed off the how to make a video game without showing how to export it. So I wanted to create a standalone video on that. So that's what we'll do. And then after that, I don't have anything planned yet. So that could be navigation mesh if the components are out. That could be the beginning of a Blender series. Don't know about that yet. Maybe some RTS camera movement. We'll figure something out. But lots of great ideas bouncing around today, I think. Am I planning to attend Lodom Dare this month? Yes, I am. And it's going to be so awesome. And Sophie Bab is going to attend as well. And it's going to be just so much fun. And I definitely plan on doing a post-mortem or one of those behind-the-scenes videos that I've done before for Diggin' and for Maniac Inc. I had a lot of fun creating those videos, and you guys seem to like them. For some reason, Maniac Inc. didn't do nearly as well in terms of the video itself as Diggin'. So maybe let me know why, because I definitely want to, I don't want to decrease in quality. But the game turned out pretty well. It actually, I'm going to show you guys this. Thanks to all of the guys who were voting. It actually got into the top 100. Let me show you. Here's the screen here. So here's Maniac Inc., the previous game I created. And as you can see here, it got into number 25 on fun. I'm really, really happy about this one because it was something I was trying to emphasize with the game. I mean, it's not something that is by any means beautiful. It has this very classic stick art feel. So I really tried to maximize it for fun, and I'm really glad that that paid off. You guys gave it 46 in humor. That's awesome. I don't think that I have that I'm that funny. Apparently, you guys kind of look like the quirkiness of the humor in here. I think creating the title screen really helped drive the story along, or not the intro screen. Where I gave a bit of backstory. I definitely think that was worth it. It was also something that I created pretty quickly, so I was really in doubt if you guys would like it, but it seems like you did. And we got 81 on the overalls. That's awesome, guys. Thanks so much. I completely forgot to mention that. Oops, chat. There we go. Let me bring up the chat here again. Where did I close the window? There. Cool. Will I make a video about using game analytics or Unity analytics? Maybe at some point. I mean, Unity analytics is extremely easy, and game analytics is third party, and I'm not totally sure if it's totally free. Game analytics. Just gonna Google that. I don't want to do something on a service that isn't totally free, but sign up for free. Okay, so yeah, free analytics tool. Awesome. And then they probably have some kind of subscription plan on top. I'm just guessing. But yeah, maybe at some point analytics for a game is something really important, and it's something that really can help you maximize the potential of your game after release. So I will think about it. Will you make a farming game? Probably not right now. Maybe at some point. And to the guys saying that they just showed up and missed a bunch of things, this live stream will be available on YouTube. Just letting you know again. Tomorrow it will be up. Can you make the next live stream on making a piano tiles? Don't tap the white tile like game, please. It will help all of us on using game which uses music. I'll think about it. I don't know if I'm totally sure what it is you want, but I'll think about it. I'll have a look into some kind of music short game. We need to do more with audio. I agree with that. A nice clicker game that could be fun. What do you like more, programming or modeling? I definitely like programming more. Not because I think it's more fun necessarily, but just because I get more fun out of it because I'm better at it. I'm sure if I was a good artist, I would enjoy modeling just as much. But when I then get the opportunity to model because I do it so little, it's so fun. I mean, you can go nuts and pretty much create anything, and it's in this world of exploration and possibilities, and everything I create just seems to be so bad. So I'm sure if I just touched something and it looked beautiful, I would think it was the most fun thing in the world. Theoretically, will you be able to make a game like The Witcher with Unity? Theoretically, yes. And that's all I'm going to say. Can you do a tutorial on a level manager or a game manager? A level manager / game manager is going to depend totally on the game that you are creating. Of course, there are some things that you pretty much always want in a level / game manager, which is a singleton pattern. So you make sure that you always have at least one and only, or that you always have one game manager in your scene, not more, not less. And stuff like reloading scenes and loading next scene and ending games and stuff like that. But again, already there it starts to depend on the game you're making. So it's not probably not something that I'll do right now. Where did your old intro go? I love the picture in yours. Oh, thank you very much. It went, kind of disappeared. I tried to speed up the pace of my videos a little bit, and I thought the intro was just kind of unnecessary clutter. Also, that picture of me is very old. So yeah, just I wanted to try a new format. I guess YouTube is weird because things work, but you still have to change them in order to stay relevant. And yeah, YouTube is also, I wanted something fresh, so I tried something fresh. What is the weird O in your name called? It's called an Ö. It's actually pronounced Asbjørn. And Ö is a Danish letter. So that's why you don't know it. It's, yeah. It's what foreigners probably have the hardest time saying. It's Ö. Having issues with physics in a 2D game I'm developing, where's the best place to get help? Well, if it's on a particular subject, Unity forum and Brackeys forum. Forum.brackeys.com. Go there. A lot of awesome guys answering questions all the time. If it's not on a specific subject, but just something you want to learn more about, Quill18 has some really nice Unity 2D physics tutorials. We've also done some live streams using 2D Unity physics, which were really fun. Line Rider used 2D physics. We did an Angry Birds replica, which also used a lot of the physics system. So you can check out some of those. We also did something on driving, kind of a balance game driving thingy in 2D as well. And then Unity's official tutorials are always great. Okay, guys, I think we will slowly wrap this up now. So final questions, and then we'll go ahead and close this because I also have to get something to eat and then start processing all this footage and uploading it so we can realistically get it ready for tomorrow. But yeah, I should team up with Picard. Yeah, he does some pretty good stuff actually. Might contact him at some point. Is there a significant performance difference between C and JavaScript on larger projects? Between C, yes, but I just think you mean C#. Then not a huge one, no, but it depends on what you're doing and what is the large project. And actually, I don't know the newest benchmarks because Unity has changed the way that they compile so much recently that I have no idea anymore. It used to not be that great of a difference. Actually, there almost used to be no difference, but right now it might be that C# has the distinct advantage. I wouldn't be the one to answer the question, so yeah, I'm just gonna evade it. I'm saying whatever you like to use the most. Don't worry about performance because I don't know the answer. How do you find game ideas? Big scale games. Big scale games. I don't think I've ever had a idea for a big scale game. If you just mean like commercial games, not necessarily like AAA games, pretty much the same way that I find game ideas for smaller games. It's just about finding something that you like and messing around with it until you kind of get something that works. For me, I never get that pling, this would be amazing, the best game idea ever, and then I work on it and then it's done and that's it. For me, it's a much more dirty process where I just start with something that feels fun, something that could be fun for the user, and then I try and make a game around that, and I explore the mechanics as I go. So much more of an interactive process and much more of an exploration process, because yeah, I don't get that good ideas, I guess. You have a Material UI package. In that package there in Material UI screen, which is a great thing. Can you show us how to use that thing? When we used it, like changing scene, it makes a very good wave animation. I don't even remember that stuff anymore. The Material UI package has actually now come out as an asset store thing, and it's now paid, but it's also very nicely maintained, and it's a very good package. So if you want to easily create very good looking UI, I really suggest picking that up. But I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what you're referring to here. Tutorial about pixel shaders, maybe at some point. Do you have any games on the Apple App Store? I actually do not. No, but I definitely want to have one at some point. How do you promote your game as an indie game developer? It's a really good question. I think half of the promotion as an indie game developer is about creating a game that is easy to promote. And with that, I mean creating a game that people want to share themselves playing. I mean, with the entire wave of, YouTube gamers and people playing these games and sharing it and having fun with that, that's easy marketing, and it's free marketing if you can get people to play your game and have fun with it and make fun videos from playing your game. So I think targeting those kind of audiences makes the marketing itself a lot easier, because if you don't have a big marketing budget, you shouldn't go out spending it on Facebook ads or Google ads or YouTube ads or anything like that. You should much rather try and communicate to some of the smaller YouTubers in the beginning, maybe, and you can always aim for larger YouTubers if your game grows, that would maybe be interested in playing your game and sharing it. And then also, just if you create something that's really different, you can contact news magazines and stuff like that and have them feature a game. Yeah, so it really depends on your situation. But one way to do easy marketing is just getting in on Steam. That really helps kind of drive the whole process. A lot less than it used to, but it is still a good thing. So sometimes the whole getting your game on Steam process can be a marketing thing in itself. Yeah. Awesome. So now I think we are done. Awesome. Thanks for all your questions, guys. I had a blast making everything today. I think it was a really fun tutorial to do, and an awesome Q&A. We got around a lot of different subjects. Now I'm totally exhausted for words, so I need some more water, and then I need some actual food. And yeah, so thank you so much, guys. I hope you had fun. And some of you guys are requesting another cat, so it's good that I have the second one here, and she was just sleeping, so she's very tired and probably don't want to hang out. So I'll put her down, and we'll say thanks for today, guys. It was so awesome. So thank you. Bye. Have a good one, and I'll have this uploaded by tomorrow. Bye. Thanks to all of the awesome Patreon supporters who donated in March, and a special thanks to Derek Heemskirk, Faisal Marify, James Kellhound, and Jason the Tito. If you want to support the channel and become a patron yourself, you can do so at patreon.com/Brackeys. Thanks a lot, guys.